It's beer o'clock on Real Craft Beer. Today we've got a beer from Wychwood Brewery and it's a bottle of their Hobgoblin IPA coming in at 5.3% ABV. There's a look at the label. Loads of hops everywhere. You got Mr. Hobgoblin there with a bucket load of hops on his back. Hops down the side, hops down this side. It looks very promising. There's a look at the bottle cap. A lot of you are aware that Marston's Brewery own Wychwood, and I am a little bit apprehensive about this beer. I do not know what I'm going to get. As always, let's get the beer out into a glass and see what we get. Nice bit of smoke on the bottle opening. Beer in the glass then. Am I detecting a little bit of haze there? Is it me? Is there a little bit of haze? It's quite clear. I'm sure there's a touch of haze there. But yeah, generally quite clear. 2-finger white head, good levels of carbonation, golden amber in colour. Let's get the aroma. Thank you Marston's, thank you Wychwood for, it didn't smell that bad to be honest, and I'm absolutely relieved. It's very rare I read the back of the labels on the beers. I have done on this one before the beer review. I just wanted to see how they were describing this beer. It's a mixture of traditional British hops. So your Fuggles, your Goldings, your Styrian, and then they put here and some mighty American hops. So it's a mixture of old world IPA, new world IPA. And I was very apprehensive before I began. The aroma is pretty good. Melon, mango. A little bit of spice, grapefruit, orange peel. Fingers crossed. Let's dive in. Let's dive into this beer. Cheers, everybody. It's not bad. I'm almost nervous. It's not bad. It's not bad, and thank goodness for that. It's spicy. It's bitter on the back end. There are some fruit flavours coming through. There is some of that melon coming through, and there's some fleshy blood orange and some grapefruit and some pine. There's that typical Marston's earthiness on the back end, that little bit of, like they've thrown a few copper pennies in the bottom of the bottle, but I mean, I'm going to try and overlook that. I'm going to try and overlook the fact that they've actually, it seems like that they've added quite a good amount of hops into this beer, and they've decided, this is where I'm going to be a little bit critical of Marston's of late. If you think of computer games, if you think of EA, everybody loves to rubbish EA games. They're the biggest out there. They produce very generic, very similar, boring games. They know that the masses are going to buy it and play it, but the critics out there slate EA. And Marston's began to become, in the UK, the EA of the beer world. EA, Google it, Electronic Arts. I'm sure a lot of you know EA, but there might be a few. Electronic Arts, game publisher. So Marston's were, for me anyway, they were. I had a Hobgoblin Gold a couple of months ago, and it was absolutely dreadful. And I accused Marston's of ruining the name. They've certainly changed Hobgoblin to how it was years ago. It used to be I had it when it first come out. When did I have it? About 2009, 2010. It was a really good beer, a really good beer. It has since changed. So you can imagine when I was in my local supermarket and I seen this new Hobgoblin IPA. I think I paid about £2 for it. And this is where we dig deeper into this beer. Forget the rest, forget what I just mentioned. This is where we dig into this beer. The price we paid, £2, 5.3% ABV. For what you're getting for the price, it's quite hoppy. It's quite tasty. It's not a bottle shop £4, £5 bottle, maybe £6, £7 now. I've certainly paid £7 recently for a Northern Monk beer, and that was an IPA. That was fantastic, extremely tasty. It was worthy of the £7. It was incredibly hopped. So you take a step back a little bit, you realise you paid just £2 for this beer, and considering you paid £2 for this beer, yes, you do get a good level of hops. So value for money. Yeah, everything is relative in scale. You couldn't say put £10 worth of hops in the beer and charge £2 for the bottle. You'd make an £8 loss on every bottle, don't you? So everything's relative. So what I'm saying is, for the price, for that £2, you are getting a pretty decent beer. Grapefruity, citrusy, mango, melon, which I like, biscuity, bready malts, bitterness on the back end, a little bit of spice, and then probably the little downside of it, because I'm not a big fan of it, that little Marston's kind of copper coin taste that you get from their bottles. So where am I with the review? I was kind of taking the mick a bit when look at him with his bucket full of hops on his back and the hops down the side, and you know, it's not bad. It's not bad. So let me rate the beer. Let me rate the beer in my hand, because some of you won't want to carry on listening to me talking about Marston's, because if you've tuned into this review and you're thinking, what the hell is this guy on about? What is he on about with Marston's? What? I'll tell you a little bit of the story from my end, from what's happened since I've been drinking beer over the last 12 to 15 years. I'll tell you what I've seen going on with Marston's. So this particular beer, I like it enough compared to the price for what you paid. I like it enough to give it an 8 out of 10. It's an 8 out of 10 from Real Craft Beer. Really solid rating. So thanks for watching. Please comment, please subscribe for the people who want to leave, and cheers. And now I'm going to do a little bit more explaining as to what I was talking about a little bit earlier on about the whole kind of Marston's thing. And that was Hobgoblin used to taste absolutely fantastic, and they bought the brewery, they bought Wychwood, and it's been a slow decline ever since. The beer's just not tasting anywhere near to what it used to taste like. It had a cult following in kind of maybe goth nightclubs, and I used to always see it years ago in goth, like heavy metal nightclubs. You'd see the Hobgoblin there, a dark beer. It used to do pretty well, very tasty beer. And it was more, I suppose back then, it was more like a really good dark ale stroke stout. And then, like I said, it changed. I had a pint of it on Boxing Day. It's the 2nd of January 2018 now. And I just about a week ago, I had a pint of it on cask. in my local pub, and it just wasn't tasting great. Then I had the Wychwood Hobgoblin Gold, which was terrible. This is okay, but what I'm trying to say here is that Marston's, I suppose they become the Bass. They become the, when Worthingtons, when Bass, when Whitbread, that's what I was looking for, Whitbread. When these people pulled out of brewing, because what Whitbread used to do is buy up a load of breweries, shut them down, and, you know, just basically pillage them. Just tear them apart and take the brands, close the brewery, lots of jobs, and they would brew the beers for a while, then they would retire the beers. And Marston's, although they still keep the Jennings Brewery open, the Ringwood Brewery open, the Wychwood Brewery open, so fair play to him on that aspect, they kept the breweries open, the beers just went downhill. And I remember years ago, I have a pub in Barry called, it's called the Cherry Orchard now in Barry. Marston's actually sent me up there to open it. Got a ribbon out and cut the ribbon and opened this pub. It was rebranded. It used to be called the College Inn, and that happened about 7 years ago. But so around about that time, 7 years ago, it used to be called Banks. It used to be called Banks, the Old College Inn in Barry, and there used to be the Banks Bitter, which was never really like that. But I used to drink, growing up in my 20s, mid-20s, early 20s, I used to drink pints and pints of Marston's Pedigree, and I used to thoroughly enjoy it. Really good, premium, solid beer. Fantastic. Loved it. I grew up in kind of Brains country here in South Wales, and I always looked forward to when we had a family gathering in this Banks pub to still have a few pints of Pedigree. It was a fabulous beer, and even that now for me doesn't taste how it did 10 years ago. So really what I'm saying is that Marston's kind of produced really bland, boring beer. And coming back full circle to the beer review, they've actually produced something half decent in this bottle. I will buy a bottle of it. If this becomes a really big success, I will buy a bottle of this every year just to see if they're still producing the beer to this high standard. Because again, it's another regional brewery thing. They seem to bring a beer out at the beginning, get the hype, get people to enjoy it, make the brand, make the beer a success, and then over time they start stripping back the flavours and they start kind of asset stripping the beer, taking away the hops and taking away some of the malt qualities in there, and it's left as a pale nature of its former self. So yeah, Marston's Hobgoblin IPA. Tell me what you think of it, guys. I give it an 8 out of 10. For the price, for that £2 I paid, it's all relative. Thanks for watching. Please comment, please subscribe, give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom! And cheers.